In New York City, Defund DAPL Action Part 2. Here we go. Right now on my Facebook page. I want somebody to figure out how to get it. Grab that one that I did. Because Facebook's been like this stranger video. The one that I just took is Alright, okay. I just worried because Facebook's been sort of like not I went out there with the try and the one that I just posted was 44 views. Very huge power. I just want to make sure that yeah, they bring the whole alright.
We hit all the targets. It's good. Remember, hi, Peter Solar here. Today was an action to divest from banks that are funding the Dakota Access Pipeline. You got to see the intersections of white supremacy, capital.
Hey everybody, so we're walking down the street, New York City, Park Avenue, 34th Street. There was just a major action about defunding the Dakota Access Pipeline, targeting 4 different banks: Citibank, Wells Fargo, Chase, and TD. All of them here in Midtown. You can see behind me Empire State Building in all of its glory. I have an echo. Oh yeah, hello. What's going on?
Honor the Earth.
That was beautiful.
Lasco Indians. Josh.
Tell us what we just did.
We're trying to not get arrested right now, but we just shut down 4 banks in downtown.
There are a few police behind us, isn't that right?
Yeah, there's a few police shut down 4 banks in downtown New York. In support of our relatives fighting against the Dakota Access Pipeline. Go ahead, Josh, say something.
Yeah, well, it's very important also for New Yorkers. We stopped the fracking industry here in New York State because we were protecting our watershed. We have to make sure to stand in solidarity with Standing Rock, because it makes no sense for us to protect our watershed without standing up for the same thing that people are doing half the continent away, right? People at Standing Rock are fighting for us. We have to fight for them. That's the bottom line. They're fighting for our future, for our climate, for our water, for our democracy, for human rights. All of these things, and first and foremost, for indigenous sovereignty. These banks and these oil companies are committing acts of violence against indigenous people and against peaceful water protectors from all over the world who are coming to stand in solidarity with Standing Rock. If you're a New Yorker, take your money out of those banks. If you're an American, take your money out of those banks. If you're a human being, take your money out of those banks. You understand what I'm saying?
See the mob of cops behind us.
We have a bunch of police presence behind us. You know, it's normal. Like they're joining our march. I think they're joining our march. So, there's a fundraiser at 19th Street at ABC Carpet and Home with myself, with Chase Iron Eyes, with Mark Ruffalo, with Shailene Woodley, Amy Goodman. Who else? Deepak Chopra. Deepak Chopra will be there tonight. So, you know, that's the next step. Making sure that we stand firm and tall with Standing Rock in their fight. Now, let me just say something. You know, everybody, you know, most people anyway, have a bank account. And you think that you just put your money in the bank and it just stays there, like, you know, in a box. And when you put your card in the ATM machine, all of a sudden your money magically comes back to you. Well, that's not really the way banks work. Banks take a lot of people's money, and when you're not looking, those banks invest it in things. That means your money is doing things without you knowing about it. Because the banks don't call you up and they're not like, oh, hey, Alex. The banks don't call you up and they're like, hey, can we put your money in?
Are you good with DAPL? Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Are you okay with this? Are you cool with like building a pipeline across indigenous people's territory? Oh, how about fracking? You like fracking? Oh, what do you think about like let's fund the militarized police? You know, they don't tell you that the banks are doing that, okay? Because they just think it's totally cool. This is their money now until you want to take it out. So what we're asking you to do is take it out. Take the money out. Because the money's doing things that you don't want it to do. You don't want your money to be destroying the future. You don't want your money to be committing acts of violence against indigenous people.
And while you're taking it out, you tell them, once you start investing in our future, in renewable resources and energy, I'll put maybe my money back in.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. If they're going to invest in solar, yeah, okay, we're down with that. If you're going to invest in wind, if you're going to invest in disadvantaged communities, right? If you're going to invest in art and culture, if you're going to invest in the very building blocks of our democracy, okay, that's great. We'd love to see that happen. But we all know that that's not the way that this works. You can't persuade them by walking in there and saying, hey, I'd like you to do this. No, you have to be forceful and you have to take the money out. You have to say, you know what? I know what you're doing with this money when I'm not looking. You're funding the Dakota Access Pipeline. You're funding the Keystone XL pipeline. You're funding fracking. You're funding the Bakken Shale. You've got to stop that. And that's why we're here today. We're sending a message to these banks from New York City. There's the beautiful Chrysler building right there. I gotta show. This is gorgeous. You know, New York. There it is. New York City is really a knockout. You know, it's an amazing place. Unfortunately, it's a little bit hostile towards artists right now. It's very expensive to live here. There isn't enough support for people who are making culture in New York City right now. That's a whole nother issue. But the main bottom line right now is these folks from Standing Rock came here, incredible musicians, leaders, activists, to tell people, take your money out of these banks. These banks are funding things with your money that you don't want. Because look, if you say, exactly, here, let's talk here. What did you just say?
You don't want that blood on your hands.
You don't.
First of all, these banks, they're responsible for funding this pipeline to the point where people are being killed. People are being hurt by militarized police on the front lines. We're out there in fear of our lives from the police force because it's working for the oil company.
Right.
It don't work for the people. The system don't work for the people. The system works for that money that you're putting into these banks. So put that shit in your mattress.
Let me ask you a question. Yeah, exactly. Would you take your $20 and go and buy a gun with a rubber bullet and shoot at me?
Yep.
And shoot at this man?
Yep.
And shoot at these amazing people here? Would you do that? No, you probably wouldn't. You probably wouldn't do that. You probably wouldn't say, oh, you know what? I'm going to take the $100 I just got out of the ATM. I'm going to walk across the street and I'm going to buy a tear gas canister and hurl it at these folks. Yeah. Well, if you have your money in those banks, essentially, that's what you're doing because you're taking part in that.
Yes. You're helping fund genocide.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. So you get my point. We've got a little celebratory lighting here behind us. A little festive lighting. It's a little bit, it's holiday spirit. It's red, white, and blue, you know. Anyhow, this has become a march uptown. It's not the way I'm supposed to be going. I'm supposed to be going towards downtown, but that's cool. This has been an amazing afternoon, an amazing day. First we went to city headquarters where we did a rally. We had Peter Yarrow speak incredibly eloquently. And then we came into the vestibules of these different banks and made the point loud and clear. I want you to go and look at the live stream right before this one, where you can see the action unfold. It's pretty amazing to watch, to hear those drums in the bank. It's good acoustics in the bank, actually. You never thought, you don't play music in the bank loud like that. It doesn't happen often. You know, it's like actually, it's a good idea because they've shut down all the music clubs in New York. They shut down all the punk clubs. We don't have CBGBs anymore. We don't have those places where New York used to foster music. Maybe we should do it in the bank.
They could make an extra buck.
Food for thought. Do it in the bank.
Well, didn't CBGBs
You know what I mean?
become a TD bank?
CBGBs may have become a TD bank. No, I think it became like a what do you call it? Big shoe store. Marc Jacobs.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to disparage anybody right now. But what I'm saying is, a lot of New York is just banks and Starbucks right now and Dunkin' Donuts, and that's really sad. But we discovered the bank can kind of be a punk rock location. That'd be awesome.
Anywhere can be a punk rock
So
location.
did you say your partner was arrested?
Yeah.
Was he released? Do you mind you talking to the live stream?
Yeah. Okay.
Was he released or not?
No, he just got arrested.
Did they take him down?
Yeah, we're heading to Midtown South Precinct right now.
Oh, that's where we're going to the precinct?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to detail support actually right now.
Well, we can talk about that after this live stream probably.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to sign off for the moment. We'll be back later. Share these videos.